cartels that benefit from the drug war. It's also the professional drug warriors. And they're benefiting to the tune of millions and millions of dollars while kids are abusing drugs. And we need to take actions like the state of Colorado to make sure it's regulated, keep it out of the hands of kids, and keep it out of the hands of gangs and criminal cartels.
So Asa Hutchinson, as you can see, he supports regulation but not banning marijuana. What's the difference between marijuana and alcohol?
Well, let me just go to where we are right now and the purpose of the letter by 8 bipartisan, served in both Democrat and Republican administrations, that we have a direct conflict between state and federal law. There's 3 options for the Department of Justice. 1, you can ignore it and let that conflict exist. Secondly, you could file suit and have a clarification as to whether state action is in violation of federal law. Or 3, you could crack down, I suppose, in terms of enforcement actions. I don't believe that should be. I think we need a clarification, which would be filing suit similar to what the Obama administration did against Arizona on the immigration issue. Let's file suit. Let's have a clarification, because this conflict cannot continue to exist. What happens in Colorado on this issue is not going to stay in Colorado. It's going to cascade across America, and it needs to be clarified now.
And I want to get to that, because there is a momentum out there in other states as well. You're right on that, but explain why alcohol should be regulated, but marijuana is different, and I'm going to let the congressman respond.
Well, that is a debate that could be conducted in the halls of Congress. Whenever you're looking at marijuana, it's a harmful drug. If you legalize it, it's going to expand use. Certainly, our democracy is not going to fall if you legalize it. It's a question that our country needs to decide, and it's a fair debate. The congressman has a bill where we would nationalize and legalize it across the national basis. That's a fair debate. I'm just saying, let's don't go 2 directions where you have a state law and state action that directly conflicts with federal action. That's a recipe for disaster in our country.
All right, Congressman, respond.
Yeah, look, in answer to your question, Wolf, marijuana is a harmful drug. Asa and I agree on that. There's no doubt about it. Alcohol is a harmful drug. Tobacco is a harmful drug. It's a question of how harmful, how addictive, how best to deal with it in society. The policy of prohibition has failed. It's time to replace it with a new policy like the voters of Colorado approved by a 10-point margin. Look, ideally, of course, we want to change the law at the national level. In the meantime, the President Obama administration's approach, as articulated through the Ogden memo, of essentially establishing lowest enforcement priority for states that have legal sale of medical marijuana, and hopefully the next stage, states that have legal sale of regulated marijuana, is the best that the Obama administration can do in the meantime. So, of course, they need to make sure that they limited drug enforcement resources after the real hazard here. And I think Asa and I agree, the meth houses, heroin addiction, these are real problems, and the law enforcement role in interdicting them is very real. Let's not focus on recreational use of marijuana.
Go ahead and respond, Asa Hutchinson.
Well, that shouldn't be the federal priority. It's not recreational use, but the federal priority is to enforce federal law. And that does not have to be done by raids. It doesn't have to be done by enforcement actions, but it needs to be clarified. Just again, like they did in Arizona, there can be a declaratory action in federal court which determines whether the state action that violates federal law should continue or not. That's the proper venue to resolve that issue. The Obama administration, the Department of Justice, is evaluating this. I think they still can make the decision that they cannot just simply turn their back on what's a clear violation of federal law.
Look, our state of Colorado, the state of Washington are well along in a thoughtful process, a bipartisan process, a multi-stakeholder process of coming up with sensible regulations about marijuana. The last thing they need is interference or lawsuit from the federal government.
There's a lot of money at stake, Asa Hutchinson, in this whole debate, and at a time of financial distress in the country and budget deficits and all of that, spending all this money to prosecute recreational marijuana users, throw some of them in jail, obviously that's very, very expensive. Can't the federal government use those funds in a smarter way?
Well, the federal government does not prosecute recreational marijuana users. That is the flat truth. That's a decision up to the states as to how they handle that issue, so take it up with them. In terms of resources, that's not the priority. That is not happening. If you're looking at tax revenue, that's argument for regulation and legalization. Let that argument happen in the marketplace. Colorado, did their sovereign choice of passing this initiative. We got ourselves in a box here. We have federal law conflicting with state law, and it should not just simply be left there with no consequence or with no determination of this and clarification. If there's no action by the Obama administration within 5 years, there will be legalization of marijuana across the United States, in my judgment. And so I think that what is happening in the Department of Justice, this decision is critically important, not just for Colorado, but for Arkansas and Missouri and every state that's going to have to be dealing with this issue in the coming years.
We're almost out of time, but Congressman Polis, I'll give you the last word. Should state laws in this particular case regulating marijuana trump federal law?
Absolutely. We need to change federal law. I agree with Asa. We need to legalize marijuana nationally. But in the meantime, the best thing the federal government can do is just step back, make it clear it's a law enforcement priority, and let the experiments in the states begin a more rational drug policy for our country.
Jared Polis and Asa Hutchinson, a good debate, a debate that is going to continue. Thanks to both of you for coming.